Andy Lang, the prop master, is going to have a player prop for you. Ross Benjamin is going to have a play on the total. So a deep dive into NBA Finals Game 4 here on Wager Talk today. Also going to look at the U.S. Open with Andy Lang and also some Major League Baseball with Ross Benjamin. And don't forget, it's Friday, so Art DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas will be here at the end of the show to give us a view from the other side of the counter. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. Don't you worry, he's gone next week as well. But don't you worry, my co-host Teddy Covers will be with me each and every day, guiding me along the way here on Wager Talk today. And we are live at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, and then archived 24/7. Don't forget also baseball show at 2 o'clock and NBA show live at 3:30 Eastern, an early start time for you for Game 4 tonight on Friday. Teddy, welcome to the show. Let's bring on Andy Lang. Andy, welcome to the show. And A is as Andy, A is in awesome. Andy Lang, the prop master. How are you doing?
I'm doing better than Scotty Scheffler, who looks like is going to miss the cut, believe it or not, at the U.S. Open.
Jinxed him last week.
We're going to have. I know we're going to have.
You said how automatic
weekend.
he was last week, Andy. Look what you've done.
Hey, listen. I guess he was bound to trip up once in a while, but it's amazing to think that we're going to watch a weekend of a major in 2024 without Scotty Scheffler. So, other than that, things are going pretty good. Had a great night in PFL. Looking forward to the weekend.
It's Customer Appreciation Day today on Friday, Andy. $5 plays from cappers at WagerTalk.com. We can talk about that in just a few minutes. First, let's start with the U.S. Open. Sung Jae Im, you like him over in the second round. Tell us why.
Well, part of this is because I've been watching all morning, and the course is playing very, very difficult, and it's only going to get harder as the day goes on, and Sung Jae Im has one of the last tee times. He's going to get the driest that the course is. The greens are super fast. Scrambling is almost impossible on some of these holes, and I'm just watching a lot of guys really struggle. We look what happened with Sung Jae Im yesterday. He shot 74 plus 4 yesterday. And what was bad was his putting and his scrambling, and that's what it's all about at this course. He was the 8th worst golfer in the field putting, so he's struggling to read the greens quite a bit. He was minus 2.55 strokes game putting. He was almost as bad scrambling, so it means when he gets up near the green, he's not getting his ups and downs. He's not hitting in long birdie putts. He's struggling with the putter. And with the greens that are much faster today, I think he struggles quite a bit. We're seeing some big numbers from some of these guys. The number 1 and number 2 players in the world just double bogeyed a par 5. It is just a very, very difficult course, and the conditions are just going to get worse today. So I look for some more big scores, and Sung Jae Im struggled yesterday. I don't like his chances to go low. So he needs to shoot +2 and over to cash this one. He tees off at about an hour and a half from right now. So nice little bet to follow on the afternoon.
Love it, Andy. A little something for the live viewers on Wager Talk today here. And one thing I know about golf, I don't follow the U.S. Open or golf too closely, but I've been to some U.S. Opens. I was at Shinnecock back in 2004, and I was also at a Congressional in Northern Virginia. So I've actually gone to a couple. The rough is usually just insane. It's like up to your knees. You actually get mosquito bites walking through it. And any time to overprop at the U.S. Open usually makes a lot of sense to me, as it's usually a very difficult course. It's Andy Lang talking some golf. Andy, of course, does darts, lacrosse, hockey, and he does a little sport called the NBA Finals. So, Andy, what are you going to look at here? Give us a player prop, since you are the prop master for Game 4 tonight.
Well, obviously Dallas has got to be searching for something, and I'm going to go with Derek Lively over his points, rebounds, and assists, because I think Dallas switched something with him and Daniel Gafford in the last game. So in games 1 and 2, he played 18 minutes and 19 minutes. Game 3, he played 30 minutes, was 5 of 6 from the field, had 13 rebounds. If he's going to play 30 minutes, I really, really like his chances to go over this one. A lot because of the rebounds. You know, with no Porzingis, if he's not playing, that's another big body that Derek Lively doesn't have to fight for rebounds. 5 of 6 from the field because he shoots right around the rim. You know, he's not taking jump shots or threes, so you get a really, really good high percentage shot. So I'm going to roll the dice that the coaching staff of Dallas is going to keep rolling with Lively and that he gets more minutes. He's done a good job staying out of foul trouble the last 2 games. No fouls in 30 minutes playing. So I was on Daniel Gafford in the first couple games of the series. He cashed his over points total, but I think Derek Lively is kind of the adjustment that the Mavs are trying to make here. So, let's take Derek Lively over his points, rebounds, and assists. It's only 18.5. Again, if he plays 30 minutes, I think he sails over this total.
So the one thing Derek Lively isn't getting is a lot of shot attempts. He hasn't had more than 6 in this series. He didn't get more than 6 in any game last series. I'm curious why you pick PRA here as opposed to just rebounds. You would think that Lively, who had the big rebounding performance in Game 3 without Porzingis on the floor, would be able to do the same thing tonight. Tell me why you picked PRA instead of rebounds, because the rebounds is the one that stood out to me for Lively.
You could absolutely just play rebounds if you want. I wanted to add the points because I thought it was pretty amazing that he got 6 shots with no Porzingis in there. Maybe it's opened up inside. Maybe Horford's not exactly scaring anybody on defense. So I'm just it's a little roll of the dice, Teddy. It's a little bit, but I just feel like they found something with him inside. Maybe they get a couple lobs. He gets a couple putbacks. You're right. He hasn't traditionally gotten a lot of shots. So I'm kind of taking what I saw in the last game and hoping that it works out for us in this game. But rebounds, I certainly wouldn't talk you out of taking rebounds. Again, if he plays those minutes, he should sail over.
Yeah, and Andy, I mentioned this in my standalone videos for the first couple games. With Porzingis back, I thought both Gafford and Lively, would have less of an effect. And I said, you really could play them both under, and one will probably hit it. Worse, you go 1-1, maybe get a 2-0. And like you said, it was more Gafford than it was Lively in games 1 and 2. But I'm with you on this one. And when I did my Game 4 video, which is up right now, I mentioned that did not look like Gafford got much in Game 3. It's hard to imagine he's going to get much here in Game 4. And Lively had some big dunks down low in the fourth quarter when they made that comeback. They started getting the ball to him more later in the game when they were playing better. So I like where you're going with Lively here in Game 4 tonight. That's Andy Lang, the prop master. And once again, it is $5 Customer Appreciation Friday at both sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. Andy, what do you have going on for your $5 best bet at WagerTalk this Friday?
We're going to the NHL. Man, I would love to end the NHL season on a winning note. It's been my best NHL season by far, 78-46 this year. Number 1 winning percentage, number 2 ROI. And it's $5 best bet. I haven't had one in a while, but this number is just too good to pass up. It's only $5, and what a great way to finish off the NHL season that's been so good to myself and the clients with the best bet. That's only $5. So that game is tomorrow, but you can lock it in today to get the best number. Andy Lang over at wagertalk.com.
Ooh, Andy, you made it $5 Saturday. I see what you did there. I like it. Andy Lang, NHL, $5 Saturday, but Friday only. That play will go back to 25 on Saturday. So if you're going to get his best bet, why not save 80%? Because it is $5 Friday at wagertalk.com. Teddy Covers, you're also $5 Friday. What have we learned in the world of sports betting, though? I haven't talked to you since Monday. What are you going to talk about here today? A little bit of a short era and maybe some Bernie Kosar. That intrigued me when I saw the show notes.
Sure. So Wake Up and Win, the show I've been doing for the last couple of months at wagertalk.com at 7 a.m. Well, that show's been canceled. Today was the last episode. And honestly, it's okay. I've done many. And I wanted to have you on today. We talked about this, Steve. I've done so many shows over the years when you think about it. The first show I was on was the Stardust line here in Las Vegas. That got canceled because the Stardust got imploded. I had a show on SiriusXM for Sports Memo. That got canceled. Another one on SiriusXM with SportsBet. I actually quit that one. There was too much going on. Prez and I did a show for Covers. I did a show for ESPN. So many radio shows here in Vegas, shows offshore, and now this one. Eventually, every show gets canceled. It's no crisis. That only lasted a couple of months. And frankly, it wasn't that good. Nobody liked it. I shouldn't say nobody liked it. We had a good handful of loyal viewers, and I appreciate those guys who are in the comments every day. Thank you, guys. But it didn't take off. So you move on to the next thing. It's okay. The next thing, NFL team previews. There's 32 of them. We'll be starting the week of June 24th, so 10 days from now. My NFL win report's going to come out July 2nd. Waist deep in the NFL now. I'm about to be shoulder deep. And, of course, there's all kinds of great content at Wager Talk. I'm not going anywhere. The vast majority of guys aren't going anywhere. There's lots of content still to create, even though today is the end of a short era when it comes to wake up and win. And Steve, I want to talk about Bernie Kosar too, but I want to throw to you first. How many shows have you done over the years that have been canceled? I got to think dozens. You've been doing this as long as me. And it's like shows go for a while and they don't. There hasn't been one show for either one of us that's gone the whole way through. But if you had to guess, how many shows you've done over the years that you don't do anymore? Well,
it's funny, Teddy, because if you'd asked me at the start, have you ever been on a show that's canceled? I would say no, because I can't think of a show that was like canceled maybe before I left or stopped doing it. But then you named about half the shows you just named I've been on with you at some point, including the cover show with Prez and you back like 15 years ago. Funny story there. I started in 1996, and I started doing radio in like 97. I'd done thousands of shows, and you and I did that show with Prez. And all this is audio, by the way. I'd never done any TV or video until the last 3 or 4 years of Wager Talk. So back in the 2000s, when Teddy and I are talking about shows, it's pretty much, he did a little bit of TV, but it's all radio audio. We were doing that show at Covers, and it was doing well. And I remember, I'm rolling out of bed like early on a Friday to do it or whatever, and I'm half asleep. And he's giving me tips on how I can be better on the radio. And this is like the 9th or 10th year I've been doing radio. I'm like, I want to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty decent at it, and so are you. And so I still vividly remember that. I'm like, okay, Prez, yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. I'll work on it. But that was a fun show, and seems like ages ago, Sports Grid, The Score, we did a lot of shows there. I think The Score itself has been canceled. But I want to get to a bigger point, though. I use trend following like in the investment markets, and the concept of trend following is you make a lot of small bets, but you let your winners run, and you cut your losses short. And it's really a great way to live life in all aspects. And that's what you do here. You try 3 or 4 little shows, right? And the one that works, you put more effort into it, right? And your opening line report during the football season works. Ralph Michaels and I did some baseball videos last summer. I honestly believe in the 4 years I've been at Wager Talk, it was the most informative, like 20-minute shows I did. We got like 200 views a show. So you just never know. And even if something could be great, it doesn't mean it's going to take. Whereas there's these jack-offs here on YouTube getting 10,000 views every morning, giving out worthless baseball information on other channels. So, it is what it is, right? But it's not worth your effort to be doing it, every single morning waking up to get 400 views or whatever. There's other ways you could be using your time and efforts. But, yeah, make small bets and let your winners run. That's what trend following is all about.
Yeah, and again, it's not people like, are you disappointed? Are you bummed? No, it's okay. We have plenty of shows. There's all kinds of content on Wager Talk. Literally, I mean, when it comes to the individual videos, 10, 12, 15 a day, I'll be doing plenty. Don't sweat it at all. I do want to talk about this Bernie Kosar story real quick, because this is hilarious. And so what Kosar filed a lawsuit against a media company that he alleges forced him to make a $19,000 ceremonial bet that cost him the job on the Cleveland Browns pregame show last year. He was pulled he was pulled from that pregame show after he said that he had bet 19 grand on the Browns and would be giving the winnings to charity. Of course, he wore the number 19 when he started with the Browns in the 80s. And then, according to the lawsuit, the agreement called for Kosar to place a wager on a sports betting app for a New Year's party charity event that Kosar would, quote, not be liable nor responsible for the amount of the wager, nor would be entitled to any winnings that may occur as a result of the wager. Nonetheless, the Browns said bye-bye after he made the bet. So how does that happen? All right, guy's making a ceremonial bet. Cleveland knows he's making a ceremonial bet, and then he gets the axe. There's only one way, at least in this bettor's opinion, something like that happens. They were trying to get rid of him, and this was an excuse. I've heard rumors over the years that Kosar can be a difficult guy to deal with. I don't know if that's the truth or not. I do know this. Cleveland saw their opportunity to get rid of him, and they did. But when it comes to the ceremonial bet stuff and the lawsuit now where he's filing for close to $1 million against this group, boy, some of this stuff is real hard to decipher, Steve.
Yeah, well, it's going to probably cost them several years worth of his salary to settle whatever this lawsuit will be. You ask for $1 million and you settle for like 100,000, right? Or however it works. I think there's no question that's what happened though, because, the 19,000 is a hell of a coincidence when he wore number 19. So I'm believing his side of the story here. And, whether they wanted to get rid of him or not, what big picture takeaway for me on this, Teddy, drives me crazy in every aspect of life once again, is like, there needs to be some judgment and some common sense with every rule and regulation, right? It's like, you have to look at intention. It's just like if someone says something stupid. We've done a lot of shows. Knock on wood, you and I have gotten away probably not saying anything really stupid on like the thousands of shows we've done where we've gotten in trouble. We've come close. And on Sports Grid, when we're with Morency and company, it's kind of difficult not to. But, once again, if there's no intent behind it, you let it slide. When someone messes up for 2 seconds, Scotty Scheffler's a good example. We joked about him, with the orange jumpsuit the other week. It's 5:30 in the morning. He just had a kid born the week before. He made a bad 10-second judgment call in life with whatever happened with that police officer, but it doesn't mean he's a bad person, doesn't mean he's a criminal, doesn't mean he should be locked up for 2 years. Now if this guy had a history of running over police officers 10 other times, you look at it a little differently. Kosar doesn't appear to have a betting or gambling problem, so maybe use a little bit of judgment. I'm backing him on this one. I think it's kind of ridiculous, and it does look like he was getting railroaded.
Yeah, so a lot of times you see these stories where someone gets fired. You're like, how'd they get fired for that? How'd they get fired for this? And most of the times, you would think behind the scenes, they're getting fired for something else. This is the excuse that they use to do it. That may well be the case in the Bernie Kosar situation. Ross Benjamin, let's see what he thinks.
Yeah, let's say. And by the way, comment in the live chat in the comments below here if you're watching the replay. What do you think? Free Bernie? That could be a new hashtag. And also the live chat here, let us know. Ross Benjamin, let's bring on Ross. You can get Ross's, by the way, $5 play at sportsmemo.com. And when Ross will be with us, he will let you know he'll be on Wager Talk very soon. I don't think it's happened yet, but it's happening in the next week or so. And he will be here. Oh, Ross. The great thing about Ross, not only is he a great American, but he's right near the Canadian border, so he has dual citizenship, and he speaks both Canadian and American. That's why Prez is a great host, Ross, because he speaks both Canadian and American. All right, we got Ross situated. Ross doesn't do a lot of videos on Wager Talk TV, so we had to get him situated. All seriousness, check out his NBA Game 4 preview. You do a great job, Ross, and congrats on joining the WagerTalk.com family here in the near future.
All right, I was just told to sit back, so we're going to sit back and make a couple winning picks here for you guys. Yeah, Bernie Kosar, Teddy. I live in Western New York, and there's a large contingent of Browns fans here. And the word around the street has been for years is that he is a very difficult person to deal with. He's had a lot of financial issues over the years, well before what you just alluded to. And I think there's a lot of layers to the decision that just was made. It wasn't just simply because of the two isolated incidents. It may have been the final straws, for lack of a better phrase. So that's my opinion on the matter anyway.
Yeah, there's always two sides to every story. I think that's the big takeaway, and I think you both kind of hit that nail on the head. Ross, let's talk NBA first. We're going to get to some baseball because that's the daily sport. We will have some baseball here in a moment, but I got to get your take on the NBA. You've been doing a great job with the standalone videos each and every game here on Wager Talk TV. First three games have easily gone under. They've lowered the total now a bit more to about 211.5. What's your take on the over-under here for Game 4?
If it's not broke, don't fix it is my adage I'm going to use going into Game 4. I mean, look, we went from 217 to 215 to 212.5 and now 211.5 in terms of the totals progression over the four games. Dallas has scored less than 100 points in each of the first three games, and I don't know what's going to change for the Mavericks. I mean, Teddy asked me the last time I did a breakdown about adjustments, and the bottom line is I don't see Dallas adjusting right now in terms of what they're doing offensively. I just think it's a bad matchup for an elite defensive team like Boston. And what I'm alluding to here, Steve, is the fact that, it seems to be a lot of isolation one-on-one basketball in their offensive sets centered around Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. And as opposed to the first three series, the supporting cast above those two players have not contributed very much, if at all, offensively. And Boston's not turning up by any stretch of the imagination offensively. I mean, 107, 106, 105 points during the first three games of the series. Their defense has been terrific. We talked about pace the last time with me and Teddy, and here's one of those situations, Teddy. The pace has been extremely slow in the first three games of the series. 164 field goal attempts on average throughout the first three games. Here's the other thing. All right, so you're getting a low amount of free field goal attempts per game. How about the free throws? Well, they're not getting to the free throw line very often either, meaning both teams combined 34 free throw attempts per game throughout the first three contests in this series. A lot could be attributed to disciplined defense, and some of it could be attributed to the referees who have decided to just let them play and be physical throughout this series. And again, I don't know what adjustment will be made there by the refereeing crew. And I just think this trend is going to continue. The three-point shooting's been atrocious. Boston 43 for 127 in the series, 33.9%, well below their season average. The Dallas Mavericks have just been pitiful. 22 out of 78 from three-point range, 28.2%. And, for what it's worth, an NBA playoff betting angle here, anytime NBA Finals Game 4 since 2014, that's all series. When the total's 219 or less, 9-0 to the under. Now, that might seem coincidental and not pertinent, but when you look at the average total in those 9 games since 2014, 210.2, there's been a combined 198.9 points scored per game in those 9 contests. And why I say this has a little more pertinency is if you remember prior to 2014, when we get into 2012 and before then, the average totals in playoff games seem to be somewhere around 200 at that point. They've gone up over the last 7 years because of the way the games are being officiated and the way the games are being played. More three-point shooting, more free throws. So I'm going to go under the total here, guys. I know I got a little long-winded there, but I want to make sure everybody knows that there's a method to my madness when I make these plays.
So you talked about how the refs haven't really been calling fouls. Well, on anyone except for Luka. Luka got the foul called on him. But throughout the series, it hasn't been a foul fest for either side. We haven't seen the refs blow a whole lot of whistles. Well, we got Scott Foster as the lead ref tonight, who is known as a series extender. He's known as an official who, at times, the whistle blows for random reasons. Does the Foster being the lead official tonight concern you at all when it comes to this total? Because he's the one guy. Again, we talk about who we know and the officials and the umpires that we know. It's never for good reasons. Scott Foster, I talk about.
Yeah, number one, that borders on conspiracy. Number two, there is some credence to that because I compare it to like a home plate umpire, whether he's pitcher friendly or hitter friendly. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Number one, I'm not one of those guys that says the NBA needs to extend the series, and that's why they planted Foster in for Game 4 for monetary reasons. So to me, means nothing to me, Teddy. Honestly, it means nothing. I mean, if you had 3 referees in the game, all of which took on the same trends that Foster has over the years, I'd be a lot more concerned. Just because he's been thrown into the mix doesn't mean the teams are going to shoot from three-point range any better. Doesn't mean the pace of play is going to go up. We may get some more free throws, but by the way, the Dallas Mavericks, 71.2% from the free throw line, Teddy, throughout the first 3 games. And that's an improvement for what they were for the rest of the playoffs. So, again, I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
Yeah, I mean, 38 free throws in Game 1, 44 in Game 2, 30 in Game 3, and it stayed under by about 10 points. So that probably was the difference in the over-under in Game 3. And, Teddy, I was surprised Foster was in because when I didn't see him in Game 3, I was like, wow, is he not on the crew for the NBA Finals? Because he wasn't exactly extending in the other series and calling like I thought he should. So I thought maybe the NBA was done with him for that reason. So, wow, Game 4, Scott Foster, the extender. We will see what happens. I love a good conspiracy theory, Ross Benjamin. Right when I was talking good about you, you disappointed me. You will learn that the video viewers that you have here on WagerTalk TV love a good conspiracy as well. We got it going live in the chat. Check out my Game 4 preview video. We give a little bit of talk about that here on WagerTalk TV. All right, let's look at some baseball while I've got you. Kansas City Royals were one of the bigger overachievers this season. They've cooled off a bit. Dodgers are playing well, but you could still say they underachieved a little bit for the most part. I'm curious what you're doing with this one. A very modest price for the Dodgers at home here. Full game, first 5. How are you attacking this one?
I'm going the first 5, and I'm looking at the total in the first 5, which is 4. By the way, folks, the game total is 8.5. So The sports books and how they set this first 5 total aligns perfectly with how I look at this game, and that's the strength of the pitching in the this matchup lies with the starting pitchers and not with the bullpens. Now, let me explain my reasoning here. Cole Reagan, I think, is an excellent young left-hander for Kansas City. He's been in terrific form over his last 5 starts, a 150 ERA and 0.97 whip, averaging 6 innings pitched per start. 7 of his last 10 starts have gone under the total. And then you have Gavin Stone over his last starts, 8 starts, 181 ERA and 6.2 innings pitched per start. That qualifies on both ends as very good form. I do not trust the Kansas City bullpen. Yes, their ERA is just 4.66 over their last 7. But if you look at their whip, which is lower, it automatically points to me they're giving up too many long balls. And sure enough, 6 home runs and 29 innings pitched over their last 7 games. And the last I checked, the Dodgers are a pretty good power hitting team. The Dodgers bullpen, if you look at their season-long numbers, it's been very good. What bothers me with the Dodgers bullpen, and I don't want to be let down by any bullpen when I have such a strong starting pitching matchup in my mind. They've allowed 29 home runs this year, which is extremely high at this point of the year. And that includes 16 and 40 at home and 4 in their last 7 games. So I'm going to eliminate the bullpens here, guys. I'm going to go with the Royals and Dodgers under 4. And if you look at the game total of 8.5, the 4 is less than 50% of the game total. And the books are seeing the starting pitchers as being getting off to good starts in this game, and I agree with it.
So the total, there were some 8.5s last night. They were all gone. The 8s got taken out this morning. We're looking at 7.5 across the board for this total right now, well, full game. And yet the first 5, yet the first 5 total is still holding at 4. So the full game's come down. The first 5 hasn't come down. Is that odd for you? Because it seems odd to me. Reagan's has been lit up each of his last 2 road starts. Does that worry you here against a team that hits lefties better than any team in baseball?
No, if you look at his first 2 road starts at Erie, he was lights out. So yeah, I'm willing to throw those 2 out. In horse racing terms, it's called bouncing. And I just think that you look at his overall numbers over the last 5, and I can't ignore that. As far as when I looked this morning, and my fault for that, I was more concentrated on the first 5. It was 8.5 this morning. So it's progressively came down. Why does that happen? I just think there's more money in the game totals pool, money-wise, Teddy, than we're seeing in the first 5. So I would venture to say that it's 2 separate markets. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's the reason I would give you just as an educational guess and opinion in terms of why that first 5 has stayed steady at 4.
It's Ross Benjamin, sportsmemo.com, soon to be wagertalk.com. And Ross, let us know what you got going on for $5 Friday.
$5 Friday. Look, my NBA postseason picks. I've been bragging about this it's not bragging when it's fact, but you got to toot your own horn, guys. And if you don't, you shouldn't be in this business. 2022, number 1 in the NBA playoffs at Sports Memo. 2023, number 1 in the NBA playoffs at Sports Memo. Currently, number 1 in the NBA playoffs in 2024. 40-24. I got the winning side tonight in game 4, $5. You heard all those numbers. $5. Even you small bettors don't have excuses here. $5 to get that pick. And folks, the track record. Go ahead.
No, finish. I like where you're going. I want you to finish.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to shame anybody, but I mean, they say numbers don't lie and liars don't figure, and you're worried about the economy and the economics of purchasing picks from guys like us. When you have a guy like myself that's hitting at such the rate he is since 2022 in the NBA postseason, I'm locked in. We don't have to account for players being rested. We don't have to. We know that players, unless they're on their deathbed, are going to play. So when it's more true to form, I've shown over the last 3 years that I cash in at a high rate. And by the way, folks, I will be on Sports Memo and Wager Talk this weekend until we do the full transition, which will take place on Monday. But $5, come on. I mean, you know, I'll send you $5 to beat the pick. I'll send Teddy $5. He can buy the pick, you know.
So,
Teddy,
so
you
they
need
can buy your
$5.
pick on both Sports Memo and Wager Talk and pay $10 if they want to get it twice to make sure it's really the real deal. So check out Ross Benjamin at sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. Until I never thought I'd be saying this until the transition is complete. Good luck with that transition, Ross. You're almost there. The U.S.-Canadian transition, that is.
I'm looking forward to it, Steve.
Kay says she misses the Prez in the live chat here, so I had to give everybody a Prez moment. Kay says, I missed the Prez. So here we go. Ross Benjamin, sportsmemo.com, soon to be wagertalk.com next week. Check out that $5 best bet. And Teddy Have Cash says, Teddy, can you bring back that weekly podcast? That is a request in the live chat.
Absolutely. When we talk about the NFL opening line report, that will absolutely be back for another season this year. So every Monday, Drew Martin and myself will do that. And I think we'll do a preview edition at some point in the next few weeks, maybe even the day before the win report comes out, July 1st. That sounds to me like a pretty optimal day for a little NFL talk. But it's big game breakdown time now, my friend. Should I roll?
Teddy, I want to remind everybody, too, they can get all these shows in podcast form. Don't forget on Wager Talk. You know, you get the audio version, or you can just put on YouTube and listen to it while you're doing stuff, you know. So it's basically like a podcast, all the shows we're doing, all the free play videos that Ross and I do for the NBA. So a great way to get some info when you're on the move. Teddy, we're going to have Art DiCesare in a moment from the Westgate, but let's look a little bit more baseball before we do so. We talked about the Phillies maybe cooling off after the London trip. The Orioles, you've said all season, remain the most underrated team in baseball for several years money-wise. What are you doing with this game tonight, Orioles-Phillies?
We have the two best teams in baseball coming off a loss this year. The Philadelphia Phillies 16-5 off a loss. The Baltimore Orioles 16-6 off a loss. And both of them lost their last game. So where do we go? But, Mr. Merrill, you talked about it a little bit in the open. When it comes to Philadelphia, we've kind of been looking for the time to step in front of the Phillies. They were playing unsustainably good baseball, and now they're coming back to earth. We've seen injuries, Philadelphia. You know, JT Realmuto hurt, Trey Turner hurt. That hurts both the lineup and hurts the pitching. You know, Aaron Nola getting lit up yesterday. Well, he doesn't have a normal catcher behind the hill. You know, they've lost 3 of their last 4. All right, they're big. They've had their ugliest loss since April yesterday, and we've seen them now lose their last 3 road series. The Rockies, the Giants, and the Red Sox. We're not even talking about elite teams they're losing road series to. So Philadelphia's coming back to earth. Now, Ranger Suarez has been ridiculous. All right. But we start to look. He allowed a grand total of 7 runs in his first 9 starts. As good as better than any pitcher in baseball. Last 3, we've seen some regression from Suarez. He got hit by a line drive and pulled after 2 innings 2 starts ago. Last time out, 27 batters he faced in only 5.2 innings against the Mets. And he wasn't great in that ball game. So we're seeing some regression from Philadelphia. We're seeing some regression from Suarez. You know, Kyle Bradish has been dynamite. You know, he's coming off 6 innings of 1 hit ball last time out. They won what? They had a 6-game winning streak snapped, losing yesterday. Okay. The lineup's been there for Baltimore. And certainly, Bradish, the guy that we trust, Brandon Hyde, will be fine. I agree. I like the Orioles today. I think the price is reasonable, -130. In Philadelphia, to me, a team maybe we start to look to fade a little bit right now after their unsustainably hot start. Give the Orioles at the very reasonable price to beat the Phillies on Friday night in Baltimore. $5 Customer Appreciation Day at WagerTalk.com. Don't miss it. Thanks. That's all I got, Steve.
Yeah, you know, when we talked about it on Monday's show, I gave a preview of that Tuesday game, and I was like, you know, I could see a spot where the Phillies maybe carry some momentum into Fenway, and then they falter. I was like, so if they don't lose Tuesday, maybe after that, and that's what we've seen here, losing the last 2 since. So I would be very careful with the Phillies going forward. They're not going to win 70% all year like they were basically doing up until this week. That just doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. So Teddy is on board with fading the Phillies in this little bit of an I-95 series. These two cities are only about an hour apart. You don't think of Baltimore and Philly being nearby rivals, but they're very close, actually. So it's an interesting interleague series in Baltimore this weekend. All right, let's bring on Art DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas. Of course, Art joins us on both Tuesdays and Fridays now, which is just fantastic. Looking forward to getting closer to the football season. But Art, got to ask you a little bit more about the NBA Finals. They're over, but they're still playing tonight, and they might be playing on Monday. According to the odds makers, 50-50 chance that they play again on Monday. Loved one of the comments here in the live chat, by the way. Fortunat, who's one of our best and loyal viewers, said after Game 3, he's replacing Harden with Doncic as his least favorite player to watch in basketball. Luka's what's wrong with professional basketball stateside, is what Fortunat said. I will say I lost a little bit of respect for Luka when he was down there whining his teams are breaking out on 5-4 breaks at the end. But, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this series is over, yet it's technically not over, Arda. What are your takes on Game 4? What are you seeing from the other side of the counter?
Yeah, I think the big takeaway for us is the way the total has just been bet down. I mean, from your opening Game 1 where you hit a 217.5, and now you're looking at a Game 4. We opened 212.5, and then we've instantly got to 211.5. So obviously taking some under money. We've also flipped Boston to a slight favorite. We had Mavs -1. We're now Boston -1. It's funny, Dallas is still favored in the first half and the first quarter, both -1 there. But for the full game, Boston is the slight favorite. Only drama for us left is maybe Finals MVP. We got Brown -3.25. And we got Tatum at +260. Brown is the good result for us. Be interesting to see if some people come in and feel Tatum maybe with the big Game 4, or if it gets to Game 5, a couple of big games here, and sneak the Finals MVP out. That's why we're kind of putting that Tatum number out there at +260. Brown, the big heavy favorite now. And like I said, Brown would be good for us in the NBA Finals pool.
So, I mean, when it comes to this series, Art, it feels to me like the pros have lost and the Joes have lost. The biggest line moves in this series. We saw money for Dallas Game 1. We saw money for over Game 1. We saw money for over Game 2. We saw money for over Game 3. We saw money for Dallas Game 3. That's 5 line moves. All 5 of them have lost. Is that the public that's losing? Is that the wise guys that are losing? Is that both?
Teddy, I think it's both. We've done really well throughout this series. I mean, Game 2 was a little interesting because some people were able to grab that 7.5, and obviously it closed 7. There were 6.5s out there. So, it was a little bit of drama there with the game actually landing 7. But for the most part, we've done really well in this series. And as I told you fellas before this series started, Boston winning outright would have been great for us. We wanted to avoid Dallas winning the championship. They would have been bad for us in the futures pool. So everything right now has really come out smelling like roses for us in the NBA Finals.
Art DiCesare, Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas, and it's a Prez-free Friday. All of next week, Art, is also Prez-free, so I will see you on Tuesday and Friday. He is on extended assignment this time, so looking forward to catching up with you 3 times in the next 6 shows. But Ross Benjamin's near Canada, but you're going to have to be our resident Canadian here and talk some NHL Finals.
This is another one. It's over. I was shocked by Edmonton last night. I really thought. Now, they made a great comeback and had a shot, had a real couple opportunities late in the game to tie that game. Florida's just so much better. They just really are. I thought Edmonton would win Game 3. I thought Florida was going to win the series. But this looks over. I still think Edmonton's going to come out and play really well in Game 4 and probably not get swept. But now you're seeing where Edmonton in Game 3 was -130, -135. Then it crept down a little bit when the Barkov news came out for Florida that he was playing. You started seeing some Florida money come in. Now you got Edmonton -$1.20, sitting there -117. Total still 5.5. Juice to the under, though, which is interesting because of all the goals that happened in Game 3. First over, but still juiced 5.5 under 120. I still think Edmonton comes out and plays a good game in Game 4, but good for Florida. They're going to win the Stanley Cup. And, by the time we talk next week, both these series could be over. So pretty crazy how this works out.
So you said that the bettors have been consistently losing in the NBA Finals. Both the pros and the Joes have had a rough finals, and it's been a good finals for the sports books, both here in Las Vegas and around the country. What about the NHL finals? Are you guys doing well? Have you guys won? Have you pushing? Are you guys getting your butts kicked? Talk to me about the results from a bookmaker standpoint so far here in the NHL finals.
Not bad. I mean, if you look at game one, there was Edmonton money, so that was good for us. Game two, a little bit more Florida money came in, so that was kind of a wash. And then last night, like I said, when you looked at that game three, all the initial money was on Edmonton, and you saw the number get pushed up. And then you saw the Florida money come in because of the Barkov news. And, it's funny, all the totals have been bet under. They've just been betting all these games under. And obviously the game went over in game three. So the total was good for us last night. Florida winning, I'll say this, because we operate in all these other states. Florida winning for us in Nevada was a good result. But in some of the other states we operate around the country, not as good because, honestly, we're dealing some fair splits with these 10-cent splits. So sometimes you see guys who are just going to come and take Florida plus 125 where other books in their states are offering plus 118, plus 117. So you have those type of things that happen as well. People not even betting with opinions, just betting off the different numbers.
Art DiCesare, I got to ask you something here. I was going to get to baseball, and if you can't comment, just say no comment. But as risk supervisor, you're talking about these other states now where the Superbook has, a brand. Are you all pulling all that risk together? Or are you just handling Las Vegas? How does that work? I mean, if you get a huge bet in one of the other states, does that come into how you set the line at the Westgate in Las Vegas?
It's a great question, Steve. So right now we basically all run everything together, but there are some times where, especially during football season or college basketball season, maybe busier times where we have to delegate. Hey, these are your states today. These are your states. And we have no problem, running different lines. We did it for a little bit with the hockey game last night. If we were sitting Florida minus 135, Edmonton plus 125 here in Nevada, well, in some of our other jurisdictions, maybe a Colorado or a New Jersey or Arizona, we were sitting minus 130 plus 120. So we obviously can do that as well. We have liberties to have different lines based on the booking, and obviously we have sharps in those states as well. So it can be a game-to-game, day-to-day situation, but that's something that obviously we talk about throughout the day and have no problem running different lines if need be.
Yeah, excellent answer, because that's what I was curious about, especially with the NFL around the corner. Obviously in Colorado, you might get more Bronco money, or I don't know, you might get more money against the Broncos nowadays in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But it's very interesting, and that's why he is the risk management supervisor. Westgate Superbook, to be found in more than just Las Vegas. Now, we have them in Virginia here. I'll start branding them for you. We got to talk. I love the Superbook. We need a big lounge here in Virginia like we have, though, in Vegas. There's only one original Superbook, and that's at the Westgate in Las Vegas. Art, on the way out here, Teddy's going to get to some football in a moment, but I do want to hit on the baseball here, the daily sport. Any future liability? I always ask you that, but I find it fascinating. Anything would hurt you guys right now in the futures, and also anything you see on the Friday card?
Steve, it's always a good question. I think the top teams, and I even put Philly in there because, I always say it's not like Philly was 30-1 opening the season. I mean, obviously they've had a great hot start, but, teams like Baltimore, teams like the Yankees, teams like the Dodgers, all these top teams, and to me it's the big four. It's the two NL teams, Philly and Dodgers, and obviously the two AL East teams, Baltimore and New York, who kind of have separated themselves. There's a little bit of liability sitting there with, let's say like a Seattle or a Houston, but obviously Houston has not played well. We've talked about them multiple times, and we got to numbers where we were sitting at, 16-1, 20-1. You saw some bites at the apple, but, I would say outside of the big four, Seattle to win the World Series, a little bit of a liability, but nothing too crazy.
So we've got just a few minutes left with Art DiCesare at ArtDice21 on Twitter. He is an excellent follow. And Art, we got to talk a little football. We teased it on Tuesday. And I want to ask you, where do you want to go? You want to talk some college? You want to talk some NFL? You want to talk some week one? You want to talk some futures? I'm all ears, my friend. Regale us with some thoughts on the upcoming football wagers.
I got a bunch of stuff. I got some college. I got some, win total stuff. And I got some weeks 2 through 16 that we could tease a little bit. Just start with the college football. A couple of games that have seen some movement off some sharp bets. TCU at Stanford. Sharps took Stanford at plus 10.5. Now sitting at 10. SMU at Nevada. SMU was laying 20.5. We took some sharp action there. We've moved to 21.5. One more college football game for you. UCLA at Hawaii. They got to go to the island. Hawaii was getting 17. Sharp money came in there. Couple on that, actually. More than one sharp bet on Hawaii at plus 17. Now sitting at Hawaii plus 16 at home in that week 0, week 1 range against UCLA. And then a couple of teams that, because like I said, we got all the games up now. Not just week 1, weeks through to 18. You've seen people want to come in and fade New England. Obviously going to be one of the worst teams in the league, one of the lowest win totals in the league. And I've talked about how under money's come in on their on their season wins at 5. Week 2, Seattle at New England. Seattle -1, now -1.5. Jets at home, -7, moved over the 7, now 7.5. And week 10, Chicago's going to be very popular. New England goes there. Chicago laying 5.5. Now Chicago laying 6. So 3 different spots, week 2, week 3, and week 10, where some sharp guys came in, picked off some numbers against New England.
Yeah, Art, what you said right there is what I've always said. If you're going to tie up your bankroll for several months and play these games early, it's usually because you think the line is obviously going to be several points different when that game happens. And more importantly, in football, unlike any other sport, it's key numbers. 2 of those college games you mentioned, 20.5 up to 21, 21.5, plus 17 down to 16. I mean, those are key numbers. And at 17, you're basically nothing else till 20. So that's why they're like, they don't care. If it's 17.5 or 18, it's not going to make the difference. They don't want to lose 17, whereas at 20.5, they don't want to lose and end up on 21. So that's a lot of the reason why those bets came in. They're probably preferred sides they like, and they also maybe think the line should be higher, obviously. So it's just part of the intricacies to playing these games several months ahead of time, and you can do so at the Westgate Superbook. And Art, do they have those lines available at all the Westgate brands at the different states?
Yes. So what we normally do is we get everything up, obviously, in Nevada first, and then we start to filter them out into the other states. So, yes, in all other jurisdictions they are available.
And let everybody else know what you got going on. Do you have the 105 juice here for the NBA Finals tonight? I know you've mentioned that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually day of, and obviously today's day of, but, even too, we were doing it yesterday. So -105 for NBA Finals. This could be the last one. 10-cent lines, obviously, on the hockey. And, as always, we're always trying to do, new and competitive things and, try to stay relevant because obviously it's a ever-growing and changing business. And as always, come down to the Westgate, check us out. We got plenty to do. We're going to have plenty on our football menu. As always, you can ask for me, reach out to me on X or Twitter, whatever. I'm always here to help.
Yeah, you can find him on X, Twitter at ArtDice21, at ArtDice21. And when you're in the Las Vegas Superbook at the Westgate, go to the counter and ask for Art DiCesare by name and let him know you saw him on either Tuesday or Friday or both Wager Talk Today episodes. And we will see you again on Tuesday. Art, looking forward to it. Have a great weekend. And Teddy, that'll do it for this week's final edition. We'll be back on Monday through Friday as always. Don't forget the baseball show live at 2 o'clock Eastern. I'll be on with Brian Leonard. We take live questions in the chat on games, player props you want to talk about. And then Joe Ranieri and I will be back at 3:30 Eastern to do the NBA Finals Game 4 edition live once again. Baseball at 2, basketball 3:30 Eastern. We take live questions in the chat. And, of course, I also monitor the chat afterwards in the comment section below here. So ask any questions you might have. $5 Friday, both Sports Memo and WagerTalk.com. You get a top best bet from each and every capper, no limit, for just $5. That's an instant 80% discount. And Teddy, have a great weekend. Take us home.
Thank you, Steve. You have a great weekend too. And I hope all of you out there in viewerland have a great weekend as well. We'll do the show again on Monday, Steve and I, between now and then. Enjoy the games and best of luck with all your bets.